Deltarune, the chaotic sibling and follow-up story to Toby Fox's masterpiece that was Undertale, takes everything you could love and everything you could want about moral dilemmas, quirky humor, and talking to odd and complex characters, and cranks it up all the way to 11. It's a game that is already showing more promise than Undertale, and could very well be Toby Fox's true magnum opus, as it's in many ways already and truly improved on some of the flaws from Undertale. It's got adventure, drama, big shots, and most importantly, a whole bunch of characters who need serious therapy, but will instead solve their problems through goofy dialogue and intense, sometimes rage-inducing boss battles. I'm looking at you, Jevil. For real, that clown around town can go fuck himself. Speaking of boss battles, let's talk about those secret ones. Those delightful little side chicks designed to ruin your day and make you question everything you thought you knew about the game's lore. And today we're focusing on our beautiful, majestic Lord and Savior, the one and only Spamton G. Spamton. You know him. I don't think he needs a proper introduction. But just in case, he's the lovable trash gremlin whose motto might as well be by any means necessary. He's chaotic, conniving, and constantly shouts about being a big shot, like a senile old man. Now let's get one thing clear. Most people are under the assumption that he's a shady, eccentric salesman trying to make a quick buck. But dig deeper and his story reveals layers of complexity, hardship, and misunderstood ambition. Today I will be explaining to you all why Spamton G. Spamton did absolutely nothing wrong in Deltarune Chapter 2. Don't believe me? Don't worry. I'm here to explain why everything Spamton did was completely justified, reasonable, and honestly kind of heroic if you squint hard enough. So buckle up, because it's time to expose the real frauds and show why Spamton is just a misunderstood marketing genius fighting for survival in a world that betrayed him first. For the record, I was not paid off by Spamton in any way, shape, or form. But don't take anything I say too seriously, as it's just intended for comedic purposes only. But if you do enjoy it and find it entertaining in some way, shape, or form, don't forget to like and subscribe as usual, of course. But with all that being said, let's jump into the video. The first claim that I see people bringing up when talking about the morality of Spamton G. Spamton and trying to argue the fact that he's a bad person is that he's a fraud because he scams people, simple as that. And to that I say, that's a load of horseradish, I tell ya. Spamton was simply teaching them a valuable lesson, you see. To not be so trusting and don't believe everything they hear or read, you see. Not to click on suspicious links without verifying if that very link is authentic. He was doing a good deed, you see, a moral good, if anything. Anyone who falls for these so-called scams deserved it, and in retrospect it made them stronger if you think about it. And far more critical of things that seem too good to be true. Calling Spamton a scammer is outrageous. He's an educator, you see. Another point that I see being brought up is that he conspires with Chris to use Noelle to commit genocide on the Cyber City, and in return, Chris and Noelle would obtain the Thorn Ring, which they'd use to kill the bird, or kill in quotation marks. And to that I say, these news outlets need to stop slandering my boy, because this is just absurd. The general perception of Spamton as a character in the wider community and casual players has been obliterated and tainted by all this abhorrent slander. Conspiracy is an absolute oversimplification of Spamton's role here. He did not force Chris and Noelle to do anything they didn't want to do. He was in no way holding them at gunpoint. They easily could have refused and fought against any actions they deemed immoral. But that isn't what they did, now is it? This was on them. It was a choice. And they made it. It was their choice. All Spamton did was provide a little encouragement. He wanted them to get big and strong. He wanted them to be the very best around. The biggest big shot around. Bigger and better than ever. All they had to do was freeze computer programs. Simple computer programs. Where's the crime in that? I don't see it. A computer program isn't a breathing living being, it is a computer program. So why should Spamton be punished for conspiracy to just freeze a computer program? And the worst part is nobody was using them. They were just running rampant, hogging unnecessary power, and I mean, someone's got to think of the library's power bill. That this is more of a crime than anything Spamton has ever done in his entire life. Furthermore, these computer programs were in their way, so either way, they had it coming. And as for the obnoxious bluebird, well, all Chris and Noel did was freeze some chicken nuggies for later. As I was saying, Spamton just encouraged them to get even stronger, which just happened to involve freezing computer programs to death, which, of course, is not a crime. And they were rewarded for their efforts, staying true to Spamton's educator roots. The third claim that I have written down here is that he committed false impersonation by using Swatch's look to attract more customers. Now, before I step up to defend my Lord and Savior from yet another baseless accusation, I need to address something seriously. What the hell is Swatch doing with his look? I mean it. What is he doing? The guy sits in one place, one shop, in one specific spot, acting like some stereotypical video game merchant. Meanwhile, Spamton, the real G, is out there, grinding in the depths of the city. He's hustling from place to place, fighting to make a name for himself, leaving satisfied customers in his wake, and giving it everything he's got. Spamton's on the grind, making a solid effort to instill valuable lessons into everyone he meets about avoiding naivete and navigating a harsh world. And to show people he's trustworthy, he strategically associates himself with Swatch's identity. A smart move, I tell you. Let's not forget, Swatch is already well known as Queen's Mansion shopkeeper. By taking on Swatch's image, Spamton uses that established reputation to build trust with potential customers, so that if they followed all of his lessons, he can still ensure that they trust him when he needs them to. And what does Swatch do with that identity? Nothing. He stays stuck in his safe, stationary bubble, showing zero initiative. Spamton's out there working tirelessly, maximizing the potential of Swatch's unused image, and doing far more with it than Swatch ever bothered to. So honestly, if you think about it, Spamton has more of a right to Swatch's person than Swatch himself, period.
I was just gonna be a Spamton. I was gonna be like, no.
Another crime people say Spamton has committed is bribery, because Spamton makes an effort to quote-unquote bribe Chris, suggesting that he will give his entire life savings to Chris if they take the loaded disc back to where they got it. And to that I say I shouldn't really even have to explain myself here. Spamton wants to be free. That is his ultimate goal in life here. And Chris doing what Spamton asks is simply another step to accomplishing that goal. It's less of a bribe and more of a deal. Spamton's whole thing. It's basically a job. Chris is supplying Spamton with their heroic duties in exchange for some profit. Typical fantasy stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary here. We can move on from this instantly. Another point that I see brought up is that Spamton has allegedly murdered 5 to 10 people, as well as planned/attempted many more. And to that I say, oh my goodness, there's so much to unpack in that one statement alone. Let's start with the obvious. Yeah, it is true. Every word of that statement is true in a sense. But let me be clear. Like I said at the start of the video, everything Spamton did was completely justified. The people he wanted to hurt, the ones he desperately longed to take down, had it coming. They wronged him, plain and simple. To really understand why, we need to look at Spamton's story before Deltarune. And before the events of that story, Spamton was just another Addison, one of the Darkeners made to advertise and sell goods. But unlike his peers, Spamton's products never really sold well. Still, he kept telling anyone who would listen that he'd be a big shot someday. Desperation set in, driving him to seek any opportunity to make it big until he finally connected with someone through his phone. Whether he found them or they found him is unclear. After that, Spamton's career took off. He became a skilled advertiser, moving all kinds of goods and services. With his newfound success, he was able to afford a room in Queen's Mansion and even befriended Swatch, the head butler. Naturally, the other Addisons got jealous and turned on him. Spamton, in time, realized they were never truly on his side. A harsh lesson reinforced during a charity event when their envy was on full display. But the success was short-lived. The mysterious helper behind his rise vanished without warning, and his sales plummeted to zero as quickly as they skyrocketed. Queen wasn't about to let this slide, though. She moved to evict him from her mansion instead of offering her support. Swatch sided with her out of loyalty to the monarch. Before they could toss him out, though, Spamton disappeared, reportedly in the middle of a disturbing phone call that broadcasted garbage noise on the other end. Spamton was a beaten-down soul, a man betrayed by the very world around him. He was surrounded by people who didn't care about him. Even Swatch, supposedly his friend, chose the Queen over him. That alone makes Spamton's impersonation more than justified. The person who helped him achieve everything he'd ever wanted vanished, leaving him in the dirt. And before he could even try to rebuild, he was kicked out of Queen's Mansion like he was nothing but trash. Can you blame Spamton for wanting revenge? Of course he wanted to take down his fake friends. Of course he wanted to overthrow Queen. And if that meant her death, so be it. And who could fault him for wanting to track down and settle the score with the one who tossed him aside like he was nothing? Spamton was used, abandoned, and betrayed. He had every right to plot revenge and, yes, even murder. As for the deaths he did contribute to, those are justified too. Maybe you could argue he provided a weapon of mass destruction, but let's be realistic. All Noelle ever did with it was freeze a few simple-minded programs and store some food for later. That's all she ever did, so really what's the harm? Lastly, Spamton does attack Chris 3 different times, twice on the main route and once on the weird route. The first time, Chris was trespassing on Spamton's property, so Spamton had to beat Chris into shape. And in the end, it was a good thing because it made Chris stronger. The second time, Chris failed to give Spamton his freedom, so Spamton had every right to take Chris' soul as an insurance policy, especially after giving Chris his life savings. The third time, Chris was trying to close the fountain and basically destroyed the world Spamton tried so hard to claim after all the BS he dealt with, making that attack justified as well. Moving on to the next point people bring up is that allegedly Spamton is an accessory to murder throughout the entirety of the weird route. Again, as I stated before, killing computer programs is not a fucking crime, neither is saving your leftovers for later. The Thorn Ring was given to Noelle to make her stronger, nothing more, nothing less. What she did with the Thorn Ring on her own time is not Spamton's concern, but furthermore, before that, he was just giving them encouragement to get stronger. That's all he did. That's all Spamton did. He's completely innocent in this regard. The next thing we need to touch on is apparently his stealing accusations. Man, these accusations against our Lord never seem to end, man. But alas, we must persist. Now, apparently he stole the Neo body from Queen's basement on top of just casually conning people out of money. And my response to that is the Neo body was forgotten, buried within the depths of Queen's Mansion, locked behind an electric laser, just collecting dust. Queen wasn't using that. Spamton took some initiative and made it his own, allowing him to become somewhat of a big shot. He put it to use when no one else would. It was basically just garbage to everyone else, so do you really count Spamton stealing what's essentially garbage to everyone else in the cyber world as stealing now? Really now? Is that what we constitute stealing? I don't, in my honest opinion. If the other party didn't use it or didn't want it, then it shouldn't matter if it's taken. As for the stealing money thing, well, it's all a test, you see. It all ties back to his educator roots. If Spamton was able to get money out of you, then you just outright failed to heed his lessons, meaning it's basically your fault. Just a skill issue. Just an absolute skill issue. Let's get good, bro. he allegedly built a giant army out of pippus, which he shoots at you and covers in Queen's Mansion. While this may be a crime technically, he only did it for his protection. I mean, look how many people are out to get him. Can you really blame him? He needed protection if he had any hope of getting freedom and creating a better world. In the Spamton sweepstakes, we learned that Spamton has wanted to and has tried to extract personal information about Death's Holiday, but has since failed. Which is basically trying to argue the fact that he tried to commit identity theft. But he did fail after all, so it really doesn't matter. But at the same time, this could have led him to finding Death and probably opening a path to bringing her home. So he was arguably doing a good thing, but failed to really make progress in that.
6353 Juan Tabo, apartment 6. Yeah.
The next accusation is that Spamton has committed verbal assault. The majority of his lines are some type of insult or threat. And I mean, yeah, so what? Chris is an elder abuser, Susie is a mean bully, Rousey is a little bitch, and Noelle is a cringe lord. They had it coming. What's fucking next? Let's go. I can do this all day. And as we established earlier, Spamton has committed aggravated assaults, which he only did in self-defense, as I've pointed out several times over the course of the video. They don't stop coming, man. Another accusation is that he owns and has probably built illegal explosives, which he uses in his Spamton neophyte. And my response to that is they are for his protection, as stated before, but also Noelle literally has a move that can freeze people, so why is that okay, but fucking explosives isn't? Like, come on now. Also, explosives are really cool. You can't really argue with that. Explosives are cool after all. Public nudity? That's another claim I have here. Okay. Let my man express himself. Damn. Let the butt-ass naked Spamton be free! Be free! I cannot believe I wrote that, but let's keep moving. For real, Spamton doesn't wear pants, and we know this because his legs are the same color as his face. I mean, like, what are the odds, right? And it probably isn't really possible, and it isn't the case for the other additives, but still, let my man be free. So with all that being said, I hope I managed to convince at least some of you that Spamton is nothing more than a righteous champion of justice, an educator, and an all-around good man, who stayed good in a world that tried to break him down. On a real though, this was just meant to be a joke. It's just like a satirical video. I was actually inspired, weirdly enough, by this Breaking Bad video that was like Walter White did absolutely nothing wrong, which is obviously very clearly a joke, and I just wanted to do something similar like that for Deltarune, and to sort of highlight the fact that while Spamton, yeah, is an evil person, like he's an objectively bad person, there's still reasons as to why he is the way he is. Like, he's not completely pure evil, and that's not... Pure evil characters don't really exist in Deltarune or Undertale, and especially not even King is pure evil, because he still at least cares a little bit about Lancer. So yeah, this was just a joke, a satirical video. Don't take anything I said too seriously. It's more of just a parody than anything. But if you did enjoy and got some entertainment value out of this very unhinged video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.